What is the skill that you have? Have you really done all that you can to refine that talent? It's not to say you can't go and you shouldn't go and learn new skills. You absolutely should. But sometimes check out what you already got going for you.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining in on another episode of Maverick Culture. This time, this is a special episode because I'm joined by someone that I have known for quite some time. They have known me, in case you're listening to this and you do not know this about me. I actually used to work on staff at a church, and that was my vocational role for a very long time. And this guy on the podcast, Josh Baker, knows me from all the way back then. So Josh, thank you so much for being on the episode. Glad that you are joining us.
Yeah, man. It's cool to hang out and catch up again. Yeah, we do. We go way back to our church days. I too, once upon a time, was a youth pastor, even before Bethany, So
yeah, that's true. Well, the thing is, I didn't know you back in that time, so
true.
I didn't know you back in the, so, but you're more than welcome to share all of that. I want to hear all about it. So I'm saying all that to say, so if you guys are listening to this episode, at times, I'm just going to apologize up front from the beginning. If at times you feel a little bit like an outsider listening to an insider conversation, I do apologize for that. I will get better. I will use this as an opportunity to learn. We're going to do our best to just bring you in. Just come and eavesdrop and join in. The circle's not closed. You're welcome to join it. But if you do notice maybe some tangents or some things happening on the side, then forgive us. We do have a history and we do know each other. But all of that being said, Josh, it has been a while though since we have. Yeah, since we don't live in the same city anymore, don't live in the same state anymore. So genuinely would love to hear. I know we've talked just a few times about some of what you're doing and what's kind of happening in your life now. And for those that are listening to this, just so you'll know a little bit about Josh, you'll see this in the title and things like that. Josh recently has fully stepped into launching his own business, running an agency. They specialize in video, and he's going to talk more about that and all that encompasses. And so just so you'll know a little bit of context for the background as we jump into the conversation. But Josh, would love to hear you just kind of catch up on the story of, where we met, kind of leading up to that, and then even what's transpired from there.
Well, honestly, like working backwards from where I am today, where we met is actually quite relevant, jumping into video production. So, I always was interested in video. Wouldn't even call it video production. I didn't even know that was like the term for what I was doing. But back when I was like a youth pastor, we wanted some cool videos. So I had to make it myself. So get a camera, start shooting. And at that point, man, editing on a computer was still pretty challenging. So that led me to Bethany. So at the time I was like doing very much on the platform, like playing the bass, delivering sermons, to going to Bethany, which was a lot bigger of a church, but they had more resources. They owned like the TV station, and had like all this equipment that I'd never like gotten to see any of this cool stuff. And I remember the very first, like, I don't know, it must have been like 2 weeks in, Jonathan Spencer. Do you remember Jonathan Spencer?
I do.
I don't know if you ever
Jonathan Spencer.
So we go out to, I think it was called Perkins Row.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a couple pastors. I didn't know anybody at the time. I was still getting to know like everybody on staff. And I guess the assumption was that I was some video guru and I knew everything about video, which I only really was an editor. I'd never really done much with like cameras. And they had like a boom mic, hanging over with like, that was just out of my realm. And I had this split second moment. There was like 3 pastors sitting there. We're like recording all these videos out in the public. So it felt like very real to me. And Jonathan turns to me, he's like, Josh, you know what you're doing? You just go ahead and run the show. And it was that moment in time where I was like, I'm either going to say, dude, no, I don't know what I'm doing. But instead, I just like, let's go. And I just took charge and I started directing them. And I just kind of went with gut intuition, and it was fine, no big deal. And if anything, honestly, I didn't plan this story, but that's kind of the theme of entrepreneurship. Is like,
absolutely.
Dude, if you have like this all planned out, it's not going to that plan. That's for sure. And ultimately just comes down to confidence in yourself and go. Not that that's a business plan, but it definitely takes some like go. You have to go at some point. And but anyway, so worked at Bethany for 8 years, which was a great experience. And one day I got a call to come to Dallas and work for this company to take over, start editing all their TV commercials. And I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like Dallas is, DFW is a pretty big market, a lot of TVs in that city. And I'm going to go create TV commercials that, millions of people are potentially going to see.
Yeah.
And so at that time I needed to change. So that was it. That's the short version. I go to Dallas, start working for this company. And like week one, day one in the office with the marketing department, I'm like, I'm the guy. I'm going to come and take their commercials and just elevate them and make them awesome. And this is a pretty boring business, so to speak. It's not like Nike. This is electricians. So I was like, and they had this jingle that was very well known, and it still is in DFW, where this like guy is singing at the end. And I was like, it just looks, if you've ever seen a local commercial, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, this is terrible. And I was like, that's okay. I'm going to come in and fix this for you guys. I know what I'm doing. Because again, at this point, I had 8 years at Bethany. I'd learned a lot and grown a lot. And they're like, no. We don't really want to change this commercial. We like that it looks bad. And I was like, what am I doing? Why did I just move my family over here? But anyway, that evolved. So I worked there for a little bit, and then I moved over to a real advertising agency. Kind of recruited me to come on over. And I was like, I don't really know any of the formal terminology about advertising or analytics. And I remember the first time someone said vertical in a meeting, I was like, Google that. I don't know. So I don't have any formal marketing training, but like, hey, it's amazing what you can learn when you're just in the grind. And so
exactly,
now I'm at it almost 15 years, but, so I started doing these commercials with this advertising agency. It was pretty awesome because they're in markets all over the United States, like the biggest markets, Atlanta, Las Vegas and Seattle, Houston, Minneapolis. And so I would be in Atlanta airport and I'd see my commercial I made on TV and I'd be like, that's so cool. And you look around like awesome, you want to tell someone and they're like, oh, they don't get it. They don't understand. And so like in Dallas, I'd be around town and like seeing my commercials pop off. And then I'd be driving in Houston and be like, hey, I made that billboard. So it was interesting to like see the stuff that you touch. It's all over the place,
Yeah.
And, going to where I'm at now, about 6 months ago, I finally made the leap. I was like, I got to go out on my own, and everyone's got their different reasons for doing that. But ultimately that experience was kind of a wild one. I, at the beginning of every year, I would pick a word, and I can't remember where I heard this idea, but I love it. Instead of New Year's resolutions, I just pick one word. And, for whatever reason, doing that exercise does help like really create this focal point around that word. And in 2024, the word for me was go. And I've been wanting to like jump out and do this for years. And I kind of like stepped out and then kind of like stepped back, and like it was, sometimes these transitions aren't super clean, it can be a transition. So, but ultimately it's in September, I went ahead and just jumped. And the same week, I was planning my wedding end of September. So I started September 1. I walked away from my paycheck, and my my soon-to-be wife lost her job. So we went from like 2 really great incomes to like 0 guaranteed dollars. And I was like, well, this is cool. Like, you either got it or you don't. But everything's been working out. So that's kind of an awesome part of this, is like when you step out, things can really start to transpire. But so that's a little bit of the quick evolution of how I got to what I'm doing. But video production I always say it was a hobby that became a profession. Yeah. And which is interesting. And I remember when I went from like hobbyist to like professional, in other words, I'm actually getting paid, to like, I'm an expert at this. Like I'm confident that I could. And it was actually a conversation I had with my boss at the agency. And he was like, hey, you lose clients a couple different ways. One of them is they'll outgrow you. And I was like, and this is the competitive part of me. I was like, I'll be damned if they're going to outgrow me. That's not going to happen,
Yeah, I'm gonna outgrow them. That's right. That's how I'm gonna lose this client.
Exactly right. And not to sound arrogant, I actually stumbled across on Instagram of all places, like, how oftentimes you might get fooled, but I found this director in LA and he was offering this like course. It's like this. So I flew out to LA. At this point I have like 15 plus years of like roaming around with video gear, all this knowledge of editing and technology and cameras. And in 48 hours, he put it all together and formalized it. And so I could become a TV commercial director, which was exactly what I was doing. But like, I always felt weird about calling myself like a director. Maybe that's what is that term? It's imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I left that. And like the next week, I directed my first large commercial, which was at that, it was like a $40,000 commercial, which at the time was really large for me. And as far as like a production budget. And that honestly was the kickoff to a lot of cool stuff. And it just evolved from there. Ended up doing larger and larger productions. And, none of it's been Super Bowl commercials, but it's gotten to a point where I'm really proud of what, accomplished in that. And I remember doing one of the largest productions as far as budgets that I had. It was like $200,000. And at first I was really like, man, this is wild. I can't believe we're doing this production like this. And as we got into like the pre-production planning and you just working with the budget, you checking in on that budget, right? It dawned on me because on that shoot, we had like 40 talent and crew probably total was our footprint. And I'm going through that process and after it, and even during, like on the day, I realized, you know what? I could do $1 million production. Like there was no difference in my mind because it's leadership, and it's just delegating to talent. And at that point, that was kind of a good feeling to start to realize like, I know what I'm doing. Like I actually know what I'm doing. And then I started a business and you start to realize, oh man, there's a lot of things I don't know what I'm doing. So,
yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Video production is a big part of what I'm doing. It's funny that we're actually having this conversation and we started talking about evolving our business and our agency. Literally in the last 3 weeks, I have completely started to evolve what I called my business, Wolf Bear Media, to the Wolf Bear Agency, because I saw an immediate need with AI and lead generation, and having different components, video, TV ads, or maybe it's on YouTube or wherever it's going to air. It's very top of funnel. And I just, through the course of happen chance, and I've always been like really into automation anyway. And with AI, it's just become like, it's apparent. Everyone's using it, everyone's talking about it. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to become an expert in AI as well. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I just started learning and going through courses and, certifications. And I am completely, evolving and going all in with AI lead generation. And so I'm working on, that's very involved in changing your website and how you talk to people. And but it's exciting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, dude, I'm definitely going to want to like put a tab there with AI lead generation stuff, because I'd love to hear and learn some of the stuff that you are picking up now and how you're integrating that into your agency. But before I get into that, something really all the way, just to rewind the tape, you said at the top of your story, and I'm curious for you, you did mention right whenever we were just jumping on how you started in, or not you started in, but there was a period where you were doing a pastoral vocational ministry role. You're working as a youth pastor. And there came a point in your life where, you needed a video edited. So you just started learning some editing, but it seemed like that was just more of like hey, like the goal is not to be a video editor. It's the goal is to get this video for this other thing, but I need to do it. No one else is doing it. I'll learn it. I'll get it done. And it's almost like your story has been you stumbling into this role where you're now a professional. Has there ever been a time where you have felt like am I like really doing like the thing? Like, cause
Yeah.
it seems like it's all just an accident, right? Like you show up to this
Yeah.
event with these, pastors, these people, they assume that you're the video guy. And so you choose to just say yes to it and to engage with it. So what has that journey been like, I think internally for you? We talked about the story, practically the externalities of it, transitioning from one job to another. But what has that internal journey been like with you embracing it? Maybe it happened quickly. Maybe you were just like, I love this. This is
No.
great. And there wasn't a sense of conflict. Or maybe there was a conflict that you had to navigate and process through. So just, talk about that some. I'd love to hear that.
That's a big question. And it's like an onion with a lot of layers. And I don't
Hey,
get
man,
asked
I'm ready to
this
cry.
very-
I'm ready to
Yeah,
cry.
yeah.
Let's
No,
peel
well, I
the
hope I don't go
onion.
there. I don't get asked that very often, but it actually was the most important question in my life for several years. Because, and you know this, like when you are part of a church or you are in type of like a ministry role, it's so much deeper and beyond like a job. And so when I started considering not doing that, it was like the question mark was, am I turning my back on like God or this calling, this higher calling? This is like literally what it's often referred to. So it's like, if this is the higher calling, am I doing something that's lower or less than? No, you're not. And actually, so I struggled with that though. I struggle with that. And one of the things that helped me was actually two really good friends that I met at Bethany, and actually Jonathan himself, but they said some things. And all this stuff would happen in like random conversations. And it would just be like these, and some of it would be like in the gym in the morning. And I'd meet these men who are like full of integrity, great husbands, good with their business. They don't get a paycheck from the church. And I was like, like I kind of aspired to be like them. And if I stopped getting a paycheck from the church, would I even show up? So there's like this real like self-confrontation. And it took time of kind of parsing through that. Am I called to do this? And honestly, actually, so for me, and church was a big part of my life, and still is, obviously, in relationship with God. But I remember Jonathan said this during one of his sermons. He said, God doesn't care nearly as much of what you do as he does of how you do it. And I think it spoke to me. I was like, he doesn't really care where you get your paycheck. He cares more about your attitude, your character. And that kind of gave me a little bit of a release and freedom. I had a friend who was an atheist. Actually, my brother-in-law was an atheist. Now he's a pastor. And he would say, atheists don't really have any problem making decisions. And I was like, wait, what is that? Like, because a lot of times Christians, not all, but some that I've met, but just waiting on God. We've all heard that. And then they don't do jack because really they're just afraid. And it just made me wonder, like, am I making decisions based on what I want to do, what God will allow me to do? And so, I may not be articulating it exactly, but there was a lot of like unweaving, basically allowing myself to go and do another job, which is all it was.
Yeah.
And once I took that step away from getting a paycheck from the church, just say it that way, it started to get very clear for me. It was like, it's a very noble thing to make a good income and provide for your family. It doesn't release you from a lot of other things that you should do and be part of your community, be ethical, be moral. But yeah, that transition from church to not working for a church was difficult at first, but once I was away from that environment, it started to become very easy and very clear. You have to do, I had to be careful. I was definitely like pursuing career, because I had this like, I put my time in. I don't have to serve other people. I don't have to do anything else. So, you have to find these balances in all these little categories of your life of like, And I did. It took me some time, but I kind of worked through that. But ultimately, it's the same decision of like going from a job, like working as an employee to, starting your own business. At some point, you just have to kind of make this decision of like, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. Like, that's okay. I want to do this. And I guess we're kind of like talking in terms of like God and calling of God. It's okay to do things that you want to do as long as like he's not telling you no. I think there's a lot of latitude there. And I'm not speaking as like a pastor here. I'm just speaking as a person. So anyone who's listening to this advice, take it for what you want. But I feel a lot of freedom, like to like go and if I think of something about my business, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to change from just doing video production to like, I didn't have to like go and consult anybody or something. I just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to push hard. As long as I don't quit, I feel like God will, help me be successful. But ultimately, like my hard work, it's definitely a balance of like my will aligned with God's will. But most of the time he's like, I don't think God cares if you're going to add AI to your business or if you're going to go and like become a fractional CMO versus like, these are easy things. We're the overthinkers,
Yeah. Well, I think even too, zeroing in, people, regardless of religious affiliation, working on staff at a church, I think something interesting about your story is how this career, this passion, this life that you're building, it's almost like you got hit with an interruption. It almost feels like an accident, right?
Sure does.
Again,
actually,
in the sense of like, and so I think for some people, at least what's helpful for me, even as I reflect on my life and how much of where I am today is the result of what seemed in the moment to just be coincidence, seems to have just been accidents. It's these moments of interruption. I think that we get so into this mode. We can get so into this mode of being intentional, having a plan, building a career, making a list of your dreams and your passions and what are you good at and how to integrate those things. And I'm not saying any of that stuff is wrong or bad. It's just there are also people and there is also a story where you will stumble into the thing again by what seems like misunderstandings. Again, that's what happened. It was a misunderstanding. And so I think for myself, but even people that might be listening, maybe someone is listening to the podcast and like they're resisting something that's fallen into their lap because it wasn't what they projected to be a passion or a call, but you just never know. It's kind of like how people, it's like you learn about different cultures and you realize that when it comes to like marital fulfillment or love between like healthy marriages, like in the US where you fall in love and you pick and you date versus arranged marriages, again, there needs to be like a healthy ethos that's there. But as long as that healthy ethos is there, you realize that fulfillment and, joy and all that, it's like the same, I think, when it comes to calling and career. I think for some people, it is more of that like, hey, like go make your list of your ideal, spouse and go find them and go look for them. But other people, and when it comes to career, like that's what it looks like. But other people, career looks more like an arranged marriage or, calling or purpose or business or entrepreneurship. It's something that you weren't necessarily looking for. It's working. But I think for people listening, like, don't be afraid to fully embrace with your whole heart that thing that just fell into your lap and to wonder, again, not saying that's for everybody, but there just could be people that could apply to, because I know for me, man, so many moments of my life I look back on and it was not the result of my planning and my, detailed intention and what I, saw happening in the future or my resolutions or whatever.
Nope.
It's like you look back and you realize this small conversation, this small thought put me into this environment, which led to this thing. And next thing you know, but there is still fulfillment. There is still purpose and meaning through that thread. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. And this is, and Brandon Kraft, he's a buddy of mine from Baton Rouge. And we would work out every day together, go to the gym. And I admired him as a friend and as a business owner. And I'd see his life and kind of some of the freedom he got from owning his business. And I remember one day we were in the gym, I'm working at the church, and just so you know, if you work at a church, you don't make a ton of money. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to make more money. I need to just make more money. And so I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm abandoning ship. I'm going to go into real estate. And I'm talking to him about this. And he's like, I don't think you should do that. And I'm like, why are you deflating my like enthusiasm? And he goes, man, you're so good at like video. Why don't you just like go all in on video? And I was like, you don't understand. It's so difficult to make money with just video. And even though I felt deflated, that was really good advice. It was really good advice to be like, what is the skill that you have? Have you really done all that you can to refine that talent? And for me, I had not. At least I hadn't really figured out how to monetize it, I don't think. And well, I know I hadn't. It took another 10 years from that conversation for me to actually start to figure out how to make money off of that talent, that skill. But I finally did. And again, that was the thing that snowballed into so many other things. And if you want to, I guess, take another story from the Bible, I think it was one of the prophets, either Elijah or Elisha. We always get those mixed up. But he told the lady, go get those jars, and they'll be filled with oil in the morning. She had to take what she had. And I think that's like a good lesson to like, hey, what is the skill that we already have? It's not to say you can't go and you shouldn't go and learn new skills. You absolutely should. But sometimes check out what you already got going for you. Like, are you really skilled communicator? I'll give you as an example, Tahe. Like, that was one of the things I recognized when we were at Bethany. Like, you were phenomenal at communicating. And that gift propelled you into the things that you were doing. But it also was kind of like the thing that led you into all the other things that you end up doing. So it's not to say that we have to stay in our lane. That always frustrates me. And everyone's just like, stay in your lane. I'm like, dude, I'm going to wreck this lane. I want to do so many things. That's the ADHD brain. Discipline yourself to stay in lane, master that. But it is okay to get out of your lane and expand. And I'm watching you do that. And I think it's awesome. I'm trying to do it myself. But I think once you can prove that you can be disciplined and successful in one lane, it's almost like it graduates you and gives you the freedom to start adding to that. And we should all diversify our skills and revenues and all that stuff. So,
well, and I think part of it too is you start realizing that whenever you are succeeding in something, that there are all of these soft skills that are getting developed that you may not be aware of. And you can take those same concepts and apply them to other areas like that. I mean, that is why you see people who are great at sports. Like, they hone in, they specialize at a specific position within a specific sport. But if things like don't pan out necessarily, let's say they were aspiring to play pro, they were aspiring to go to the Olympics, they didn't quite make that cut, then, but what often happens is they're able to take the soft skills they were developing. Obviously, they're not going to go to work and tackle somebody necessarily or throw a ball or kick a punt. However, there were soft skills that are being cultivated about success, about discipline, about, trying hard. And I think if you will be mindful of what's happening when you are succeeding, I think we will zero in on failure and get really into the weeds about that. But we often just ignore success when it happens. So if we can become students of success and how we're succeeding and why we're succeeding, then we can apply those concepts to other areas of our life.
I'll say this. So when I moved to Dallas, the company I worked with, I said electricians. It was tradesmen, electricians, HVAC, plumbers.
Okay.
That has actually become a large part of my life, being exposed to the trades. Even though I wasn't a tradesman, I was just working on the marketing side, video. All these commercials I did all over the United States, they were for boring businesses, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, roofers, garage door, sprinklers. That has become my life. And I say that because I was just in Phoenix a month ago, and I'm filming this commercial, and I'm at this dude's house. I've been in some really cool houses filming. This house was wild. Just to give you paint a picture, they had 2 Lamborghinis and 2 Rolls Royce in their garage.
Okay.
And And I'm like, dude, I'm like, what does this guy do? Because he owns a plumbing company. And I'm like, this doesn't add up, because I've met a lot of plumbers and like most of them aren't in this like 7,000 square foot mansion.
Yeah.
And I'm building this story because come to find out, boop, 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 go back. He was playing for the NFL briefly. And then there was like an injury and stuff. But like that translated, that discipline. And I've seen that happen a lot for tradesmen. And I've also seen a lot of like these people that develop a skill as like electrician. Oftentimes I'm seeing tradesmen, I say tradesmen, tradespeople, whatever you want to call them, all over the United States. It's leading them into entrepreneurship. And actually I've gotten so involved in the trades. I started a nonprofit called Skilled. And I'll tell that story because it's actually quite interesting, because I think this is relevant into this idea that we're talking about of taking a skill and how that can go into entrepreneurship. I had a buddy, he was actually a teenager in my youth group when I was a youth pastor. His name's Julius. And we lost contact for a long time. And he started a nonprofit in Houston that's done really well called Mission Transformation. It's a mentorship where they take like middle school boys and mentor them through high school, getting me into college, out into their career. And his curriculum was very STEM focused: science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm just chatting with him one day, and I'm like, dude, have you ever had any of your kids in the program like not be interested in STEM? He's like, yeah, a couple of them actually, but not really. And I was like, hey, have you ever considered doing a whole curriculum for the trades? Dude, this started a massive conversation, which ultimately has led into this nonprofit, because there's an absolute crisis in the trades. And when I'm going all over to these plumbing companies, HVAC companies, all over the United States, one of the exercises we'll do is sit down with their team and interview them. And then we'll create videos out of those interviews, right, to promote culture, and they'll use them to recruit. I can't tell you how many dudes I've sat down with, and I'm like, yeah, they're dirtied up, man. And I'm like, yeah, they're making $200,000 a year. He's a HVAC tech driving a $70,000 truck. He's got a Corvette. And I'm like, my brain is just like, wait, what's happening here? And only to find out there's actually a crisis with tradespeople. There's a crisis. Like right now, there's like 3 million open positions. In the next several years, by 2030, there's going to be 10 million job shortages, which means when your AC goes out, you've got like, it's not same day. Now I'm sweating in Louisiana for 3 weeks or something crazy. I mean, that's, and it's caught on. Like Grant Cardone, I think, has started like a whole private equity thing for like HVAC companies. So people are understanding. But so our goal right now is to mentor kids to go into the trades. That sounds like, what kind of life is that? It's actually quite an incredible life, because I know an electrician, when I met him, when I moved to Dallas, he just started his own business. And these guys, there are more millionaires becoming millionaires through the trades right now than almost any other business. It's wild.
It's crazy, man.
So a little bit of a story about that relates to some of the things I'm doing, but I think it's really interesting. If you're listening to this, you have a skill. I mean, really think about how that skill can lead me to entrepreneurship and starting a business or selling a product or whatever it is. But it absolutely can. So
yeah, well, that's honestly, so someone who is I see as my business coach, as a mentor, and he really talks about that gap in the world he's been in. Part of his story, Chris Doe, with the future, is that he was cultivating this skill for so long of graphic design, of arts, of the creative side of things, went to a very top school to develop and to grow, but then realized that getting out of that world, you develop this skill in a very, very refined and how to do the creative thing, but there wasn't any preparation when it comes to actually being a business person and running a business. And it's like you learn this one thing that gets great, but it's this whole other side that you have to cultivate. And so, dude, I agree with you, man. People being able to have a skill. I mean, it's part of the idea of like the gig economy, is that people can find ways to monetize gigs, like just things that you can do to provide for people, and learning how that integrates into pursuing a life of a lot of financial freedom, especially when there is a gap. Because like you mentioned, if we get to a point where you're in Louisiana and you're sweating for 3 days or 3 weeks, so the AC person can't come out, there will be people that will pay a premium because there will be that company that says, look, we'll come within the next 12 hours, but it's going to cost you this. And there will be people who will pay that money. And that just further, so, hey, look, if you're listening and you're wondering, what does this thing look like? I'll put into the description in the show notes some of the stuff that you're doing with Skilled. That nonprofit sounds awesome. And so I'd love to draw more attention to that and what you guys are doing through that.
Well, I think one of the themes we're talking about, oftentimes we're having these experiences and we can maybe see what we want our future to be. Like we see where we want to go, but we're not where I want to be. And it's frustrating. I don't even feel like I'm going in that direction. And I remember, I've heard this story before, and it's almost like the trajectory of your life. Where in golf, if you've ever played golf, like sometimes, like especially if you're watching it on TV, you can at least maybe appreciate a video game.
Yeah.
Where like the putt goes one direction and the hole is another direction. And we know why that is, because it's the lay of the green. Oftentimes in life, it feels like that way. It's like we've been put this direction. It's like, I want to go that direction. It's like, just trust, like, dude, you're going to turn, you're going to curve, you're going to end up with the speed and the momentum of exactly where you're supposed to be. Oftentimes, man, it's like we're in this direction. It's not until like, the beautiful mind, where it's like everything comes together.
Yeah.
we just can't see it until it's like you're doing it. And you're like, oh, obviously it makes sense. This skill, experience, and this mentor, all of these things came together to get me right where I was supposed to be. And speaking of mentors, you were talking about having I'd love to hear a little bit about like your experience with Christo or just mentorship in general, because I think for entrepreneurs, mentorship's huge. It's an investment and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. I would highly recommend paying money, investing into mentorship, whether it's a program or a person or some mixture of both. And unfortunately, I've spent money on mentorship programs that didn't pay off. Others wildly paid off. And unfortunately, this is the process of like finding the fit, but find it, whatever you got to do, like find it, find your person, find the people, whatever, that group, but find it.
Yeah, it really is true. One of the secrets of entrepreneurship is you need to spend money to make money. And I've seen, it's one of like the telltale signs. I'm all for frugality. I'm all for bootstrapping. I'm all for being wise with your money, being scrappy and making stuff work.
Scared money don't make money.
It doesn't, man. And even when I'm talking to people that I know, like friends of mine, and I can just tell there is but like they're starting a business or they have started a business and they see what I'm doing. And so I'll start like giving them like, I think this, or I think maybe you should, but a lot of the times things that I'm telling them like, hey, you should like do this, it requires money. And even just the simple, like little things, man, like you're talking about AI, like coming across business owners that like, well, can I just use the free ChatGPT version? I don't want to spend. I'm just like, dude, $20 a month, like, man. Bro, like, do you realize how much value this thing? And you can't even, now again, like if you don't need it, that's fine, like whatever. But so just people's unwillingness. And I understand, like I get that, like I get it. But man, there's something about the way that money it opens doors, it opens opportunities, it accelerates things.
Yeah.
It's like like Chris and I have talked about this openly. I mean, there is no way that I would have been able to build the relationship that, I built with Chris if I was not willing to make the financial sacrifices that I made to invest back into, the things that he's done. Even whenever we were at Adobe Max, there were so many people that are just like, and again, I'm not saying everyone needs to join the Future Pro Group. Like, that is not what I'm saying. I do not think everyone needs to join it. But the number of people that were just like, oh my gosh, I love Chris. He's brought so much value. Like, my business will never be the same without him. Like, he changed my life. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to like sit in his presence at the Adobe Max conference and he's teaching a whiteboard session. And like, they're going on and on and on about how like great, of a person he is, and he really is awesome. But then it's like, and he never, now Chris's thing is just, I'm going to add a lot of value and I'm going to leave it there. But to think about how many of those people are saying that, but like they're unwilling to like buy his book for like $20 or whatever, or like they're unwilling to like join the Future Pro Group for $2,500 a year, or you can pay $750 quarterly. Yes, I slid in that little commercial just for the Future Pro Group because I believe in it. But sponsored by. It's like. And I'm like, okay, like you're saying how much value you got that much value off of free YouTube videos and some free. Imagine the value you could get if you were willing to invest financially. I've noticed it's almost like the telltale sign of what I think is potentially like, not saying you're going to fail as an entrepreneur, but it's like one of those warning signs that you're definitely not going to get anywhere close to your potential when you're scared. And like you said, part of that willingness is you are going to spend money on programs and courses that are not going to pay off, that aren't going to be, but you just need that one that bangs. Like that's all that you just got to find, that one course, that one community that does bang. It does give you that ridiculous return on investment. That's all you need.
I mean, think about it too. Like let's say you invested like $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 in something like that. It's crazy. That's a lot of money. I'm not going to act like it's not. But let's say someone like Chris Do, you're getting all of his refined top knowledge delivered to you. I guarantee you could not get that knowledge for less than like $1 million. Like it's so much. It's like any book that you would ever read. You're getting this person's like the best thoughts, and it's condensed down into like a $16 Audible subscription. It seems like it's too much. It's not.
Exactly.
It's investing in you.
It is, man. And so with that, I think there's three levels of it, right? So I would say that like there's the level of, so you have the person who they're unwilling to invest. They're like, I'm going to learn everything on YouTube. I'm learn everything for free, like whatever. Like I don't want to spend any money whatsoever. So they're unwilling to invest when it comes to their growth and development. But then you have like this other layer where I think we're moving in a better direction. But I think this is where there's like another group of people that get stuck here. And I've been here before. Literally, there is a course right now that I can say this about.
I feel like you're about to call me out. Let's see what level I'm at here.
I think I'm about to call myself out on a few things. Then there's the level where you're like, you know what? I'm going to invest. I'm going to, buy the course. I'm going to sign up for the coaching group. I get it. I don't have scared money. I'm going to spend money to make money. So you spend the money on the course, you make your login, and then you did like half of the first lesson. You'll get to it later. You show up for like one coaching call, or the network's offering all of these things and you only do 1 out of the 10 things. So then that's like the second level. And then the next, and again, all these are, I guess technically there's a fourth level, which is, like the ideal. But then there's the next level, which is, okay, so you spend the money, you get the stuff, you are listening, you're going through it, you're engaging with it, but you're just simply becoming a brain. You're just absorbing knowledge, but you're not putting anything into practice. And so you go through the whole full course. You watch every video. You read every lesson. You do every exercise, but you don't actually apply it to your operations and to your business. And that could be for a myriad of reasons. And again, for all of these, like we have our excuses, like, well, I'm busy with work and with clients, and I have other things I'm supposed to be doing. And why would I be taking a course about making more money when I have a client call where I can make more money? And, there's like all these ideas that come into our minds. But I think that's kind of like the where we're trying to get to is we're investing in things, we're doing the thing, and then we're applying the thing. And that's where we want to get to. And so I think, every entrepreneur is on like a different, level when it comes to that. And sometimes you're, more invested in one thing than the other. And look, sometimes that's because like you do invest in the thing and you realize that it's just not the right fit, or it's not giving you the value that you thought. And it sucks that you you lost money on that. But again, it's part of that journey. So I think, it's kind of finding out, where are you in that? Are you the person who you have scared money, you don't want to invest? Are you the person that you're willing to invest, but then you end up not doing, you end up not actually going through the content? Are you that person who you invest, you go through all of the content, but you don't apply anything? But at the same, it gives you a sense though of like, I'm growing, I'm learning, because you're just like intaking the information, but you keep doing the same things and not applying it. Or will you get to that place where you're investing, you're implementing, you're seeing yourself, crush it when it comes to that stuff?
I've been on a couple of those levels.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it depends on what we're talking about. There's some where I'm here, some where I'm there. I've been on those levels. Well, man, so two things I really want to, hit on. But dude, I think that the conversation though about mentorship, about embracing your story and your journey, I think that is crucial for people, because I think for some that are leading their business, there could be interruptions that they're experiencing right now that they're resisting because they have their mind made up with what they want their business to look like and feel like. And this could be the encouragement for them to embrace the interruption. For other people, it is that thing of, okay, you're embracing the interruption. However, you need to then step into what does mentorship look like to grow and to get better, because we get so isolated. So I think what I'd love to hear from you, which I know you do video production, but I like for these conversations just to progress naturally. And so I don't want to make just like this hard pivot, into that topic. But I think what fits into what we're now talking about with that pivot is an interruption I think you have experienced with the starting of your business, and you are leaning into those courses in personal development as you're talking about like the AI lead generation. So just talk to me about some of what you're learning from that, and what so personally, what are you learning? And then what insights would you share with people when it comes to things they should consider? Because look, we're all business owners. We all need leads. Like leads is the lifeblood of the business.
It's huge.
So,
it's huge.
What are things that you're learning that we could take away from, I could take away from, as you look into lead generation with AI?
Well, just like anyone else, man, I'm leaning into ChatGPT. That's like the front door, right? So then I'll have like a shotgun of ideas. We'll see if we can kind of formulate this more clear direction. I started realizing it when not everyone's using not AI in general. And I was like, that's a mistake. I'm not going to be the person left behind. And so what do and every day we'd be on set, and I'd be on like, everyone on set is talking about AI. What's it going to do in the video space? And we're all kind of like holding our breath as Sora comes out and all these other like generative AI models come out. So one of my clients, I guess I could say who they are. Well, I won't say their name. They're a global cybersecurity company, and I've worked with them all over the world. And they've been working with like the AI to combat like harmful AI, like deepfake and voice scams and all these things. And I got to see like some really cool stuff, and it just made me realize like, I don't know anything about AI. Let me start to learn. So you have like the LLM, which is like the language learning models, which is ChatGPT. Then you have generative AI, which is now, this is like generating images, generating video. Well, what's coming is agentic AI, which is like critical thinking. And basically it'll do tasks for you based on how it will recognize how you would respond. So it's going to learn who you are, which is awesome, right? Essentially, we now know that it's a tool. Let's not be afraid of it. At least this is the optimist of me. How can I
Yeah.
use this as a tool? So some of the ways I started implementing it was just like, well, I don't want to get into all of it, but some of it's kind of cool. Maybe we'll just get in the weeds for a second. Like,
Yeah.
how is everyone using ChatGPT? Well, one of the ways that I would use it, I would take I had a project that was so much information coming. I was having just a hard time to filter it all. So I took one day, I was on this email thread of 50 emails. I was like, I don't have time. So I literally just copied the whole thing into ChatGPT. I was like, summarize this and just identify anything that's actionable for me. Boom, done. I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do from now on. So I had a project where it was they're emailing me PowerPoint decks and they're emailing me Excel sheets. And I also use this thing called Fathom. It
Okay.
just it
Not familiar.
records all my Zoom calls. So you have a video recording, it transcribes it, and then it'll do an AI summary. So I had this project, and I was like, let me take every meeting I did. It was 20 meetings, threw all the transcripts in there. I threw every email into ChatGPT, and I just told him, I was like, I have this project. I need to create a summary of the project and the status where we are. It was just dumping information. And in just 2 minutes, man, I had a clear summarized picture of what I needed to do next to move the project to the next step. It was huge. And so I'm using it obviously in ways like that, but that's the exciting thing is, and I encourage everyone, follow somebody or multiple people that are giving AI, ChatGPT ideas, because that's where we are right now. Is we don't even know how to use it or how we can use it. Not because we're dumb. It's just it's creative. It's like, oh my god, I didn't think to use it that way.
Yeah.
And then you use it that way, and then so it's. I would say, and even with on your phone now, on your iPhone, you can record calls and it'll dump it into a note. So I'll do that. I'll tell people, obviously, and it notifies them, but then I can take that transcription, I can dump it into a call and be like, okay, I need to it's just data collection, summarizing it with lead gen. I mean, it's huge. What I'm working on right now is what's called DBR, database reenacting. So it's taking my clients' dead leads, and it's completely dead. They've given up on them. They've called them. The sales team's called them. They've reached out. They're dead. Give me those leads. We're going to use SMS text through AI, and the AI Android is just smart, getting smarter. We train it to be as human as possible. Because a lot of chatbots now they're positioned as AI chatbots. Well, we don't position this as an AI chatbot. We position it as to be as human as possible, and to just reactivate that lead, book it into a call. Nothing super, people are doing it. But what's nice is I'll position it to the client as this is no cost to you. I'm going to front all the cost of the SMS texting, everything. All you have to do is give me the list. Okay. And if you book the call and you make a sale, then you pay me. So it's no cost to them whatsoever. It's not a hot lead, something they've already given up on. So it's a great way to introduce AI to a business is really what it is. But it also will generate leads for them. And I'm seeing a ton of success with it. So what most people though are just hesitant to just try something new.
Yeah.
So, demos and case studies are a great way to just to show. You have to show people sometimes.
Yep.
And once you demo this AI bot, having a conversation, and in the demo, it's live. So I'll be okay, this is a perfect case scenario. Say it's a happy person on a happy day, and they're glad that they got this text message. And then you go through and okay, we booked the lead. And then we go into the demo. It's well, let's break it. You can be mean, you can be disgruntled, you can ask difficult questions. And what's great is in the demo is sometimes it's I can't believe this is working. And then what's nice about the demos too is you realize how powerful this tool is. But what's coming now is SMS, email, voice agents are coming. It's huge. Again, this isn't the silver bullet that's going to save your business, but it's a fantastic tool. We have to be utilizing AI. And
Yeah.
for me, it's like I'm figuring out, how does like lead gen and video production come together? Well, it's all this massive marketing funnel. It's all different tools in the toolbox, right? Because when people need calls or they need leads, that's like the first thing. You just got to get money flowing back into the business. Once that's happening, you can pull other levers, right? With SEO, it's video production, and video production complements SEO, and all of that leads to
Mm-hmm.
closing, right? So we know how it's very holistic, right? We understand this. But for me, leaning into AI, as new as it is for all of us, it's like it's exciting because I like a new challenge, and seeing automation and AI work like this it's encouraging, and it's a little bit wild.
Yeah.
So like watching it happen, um, it's exciting. I think like this is like the dream come true for a lot of us, is to see like AI work for you to
Yeah.
do your job. So that's where I'm at with it right now. That's kind of the front door. But once people see like, oh my God, you just woke up dead leads and I closed 30 or 40% of them. Okay. Um, let's work off my hot leads now. Boom.
Yeah.
Phase two. Now the whole foot is in the door. And now we're closing, hot leads because they can move quicker. Because as soon as that interest is shown, you have just that window is closing immediately. All right, now we're working on hot leads. Well, where else can we utilize AI? Well, you have chatbots, like what all kinds of areas that we can now integrate into your website for forms. We can integrate it. You essentially now become an AI partner for their business. And that's where audits come in. Like, let's audit your business for where we can integrate AI. But it opens the door even more, because at that point you're a partner and you have trust. Now we can
Mm.
look at your marketing strategy, your advertising budget. Let's figure out how this all works properly for your business. And it's customized for everybody. It's different.
Dude, that's incredible, man. Do you see that being, again, I feel like this is just potentially another one of those like interruptions or unexpected, pivots. Do you see that being the front door for your business now, as far as kind of the tip of the spear? Or since
Great question.
since you've had your hand in video production so long, your network is kind of in that space. Do you see that, again, just talking business, do you see video still being that tip of the spear, and then you bring up the AI thing later? How do you see yourself positioning your business now, and then maybe even over the next 6
It's
months?
a great question. And as I see it today, I'm going to position the reason I'm evolving from the Wolf Bear Media to the Wolf Bear Agency is because what I'd like to do is on the media side, video production side, there's two separate verticals. I'm going to go all in on lead gen. And so one will complement the other and vice versa. So I have a really great relationship with somebody who everything goes perfectly. What we actually are going to try to do, hopefully the whole world doesn't see this, but we're targeting private equity groups on the video production side. So this would look like if we landed a private equity group that has maybe 10 companies under its umbrella or 30 companies under its umbrella, we service all of those companies with shared resources and like a co-op, so they can save a ton of money. What I would do is I have someone in mind who I would like to work as like the COO of that and just go all in. So now we have this media video production vertical within the agency that's essentially self-sufficient, right? And then the lead gen, essentially, as we're building that up with more and more clients, it's essentially completely self-sufficient. And both of these, when they need to complement each other, they can. But essentially, I can have clients that are only lead gen. I can have clients that are going to only be video production. At different stages and at different seasons within their business, they'll need to tap into the video production and vice versa. So that's how I see them complementing each other right now.
Yeah.
And as we progress, I think it'll just kind of evolve naturally.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So for right now, like would Wolf Bear Media and Wolf Bear Agency live as independent websites? Or are you keeping like are you putting all that
Great
under
question.
Wolf Bear Agency as far as the
Yeah.
website's concerned, or like the Wolf Bear
I
as far as
kind
the
of
website's
knew I
concerned?
kind
And
of
then
knew going into this, like when I chose my domain name, that this might happen. I didn't see it
yeah,
exactly. And so when I chose the Wolf Bear, it was just thewolfbear.com.
yeah.
And because I actually had Wolf Bear Media. So here's what I see it doing is essentially I feel like evolving to the Wolf Bear Agency as my brand works a little bit better because I can now start to just put different services and verticals underneath that umbrella a little bit cleaner
Hmm.
than Wolf Bear Media, because Wolf Bear Media is
Yeah.
very specific to like video production and stuff. So I kind of see my whole brand evolving into this under the agency as the
Yeah.
brand. And so it'll live as one website. Yeah, it'll be the Wolf Bear Agency, and then we'll do like services and we'll just showcase our video production capabilities under that umbrella. That's how I think I'm going to go ahead and proceed.
I like
The
it,
tip of the
man.
spear, though, that's where I'm toying with the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
I think I can do that on social. I think having separate social media presences for video production makes a lot of sense versus the agency. And so
Hmm.
the tip of the spear can for video production can be that, like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that.
Yeah.
But if I change my mind, I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. Well, man, something's a spot where I would like to, settle the conversation now that we have, brought up the video side of what you're doing and the Wolf Bear from a media standpoint. I know for a lot of business owners, myself included, like they see the importance of video, how that is just a huge part. It's interesting where, you have people kind of look at something like a TV commercial and they'll really wonder, is that worth the investment? Should I do something like
Sure.
that? Should I be making commercials? But now, regardless of how you feel about that, it's undeniable that having a video-based presence digitally is important to where you're effectively almost making commercials constantly, right? On a regular basis.
Yeah.
But I do know for a lot of businesses that are listening, even successful established businesses, what is difficult for them though is they are at that place where it's like they see the importance of video, how video intrinsically plays a part in how you position yourself, content marketing, being a way to generate leads, but also to nurture leads as well. That said, they feel that financial strain because video can be a very significant investment to make. And there's so much that goes into it. You have to not just simply record the video, but have the idea of what the video is going to be. And then how do you get, there's just a lot that goes into it. What would you say to those business owners listening to this? Obviously, you believe in leveraging the power of video for marketing and advertising and lead generation, all that stuff like that. Are there any tips, any perspective? One, it could be like we were talking about, look, you just have to see this as a part of the investment. Like we were saying earlier, like, you can't be afraid. It's kind of like if I was having a business owner and they were like, well, I don't know if I want to buy a computer and have the internet. I would just be like, too bad. Like you just need it today, right? Would you encourage, there's the one side of it where you just tell business owners, look, this is just simply the cost of play now. If you want to establish yourself as a business in today's age, you need to have a video presence. It's just an investment you have to build into your costs. In the same way, if you're a local based business, you buy that, you lease out that business space, that office space, and you just make it work. Or do you feel like there are ways that they can integrate video and not have to, and still work within their budget limitations and stuff like that? What's your perspective on that?
Good question. There's a lot of answers to give that holistic. So my experience has been premium video production with really good creative will move the needle. It will. However, we also saw Kanye post the Super Bowl commercial from the from his, car. But we're talking about very different things. Kanye is not every brand. All right.
Yep.
So the average business has to run the play, and like everyone needs video. So I am, how can I answer this? You should spend as much as you possibly can on video. Okay. But I also know that your marketing dollars have to be spent very smart and they have to be spread out. So if you can't afford to get on TV, then don't. Okay. So let's figure out how to spend that money on video the most that you can. I I am trying to create a product, if you will, for people that can really only afford social media. Because that product needs to exist. Because I have really, really cool case studies where I met, for instance, one of our clients. This might sound like a lot, and it is. They were at 7 million in revenue, and they were trying to get to 20. And they were, I think this was 2017. I think this was 2017, 2018. They were at 7 million, trying to get to 20 million in 2 or 3 years. Well, we really invested in creative and the video production, and they hit 30 million. Now,
Wow.
they hit 30 million by 2020. Now, obviously, that is not like it's not like a template that's going to happen, but they invested in the video production. They did, it worked. A lot of people are going to need a sit-down interview for social media, right? They're not going to go on TV. And that's okay. That's like most people, right? So what is the product for that? What really, the way that they can do that is by hiring somebody to go in. They're going to have to hire them for more than just video, because that video professional needs to get paid more than like $1,200. So you're kind of looking for the right partner that has the ability to give you good content, but not just the video content. They're going to be really good at writing it for you. They're going to be great at recording and capturing it. And then they're going to be good at deploying it. So you're looking, I wouldn't say a unicorn, but you're looking for someone who is skilled to do that, a partner that can do that. And to do it not just once, consistency. So they're going to have to figure out like a good package that's like, hey, we'll come in one day and we'll create like 3 months worth of content for you. And then we're going to deploy it. Hey, we're going to come back. We're going to do it again. This is a fairly common strategy that people are starting to employ. And the people that are doing it and seeing success, they're being consistent, right? If they're the what do you call it? The person on camera, if they are the, that word is leaving my mind. If they're the authority or the brand representative, however you want to say that, investing in themselves to get good, to be on camera can be helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you have to get creative. I don't know if it's a great answer, but unfortunately, the bad news is it's probably going to cost more than you want it to cost to get video into your business.
Yep.
But it's an investment, and if it's done right, it should move the needle. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I always tell people this, like, if anything else, you're going to have content that you can repurpose and reuse. At least, if anything else, you spent money to like create content. And so you actually have content, so you can post it. You can, let's say I only wanted to post this to social media or something. Well, then you get, your business grows, or you get an influx of money. Hey, now let's get you on YouTube, or let's get you on Hulu, or let's get you on OTT. You know, maybe one day TV may or may not be the thing, right? But you have the content at least, and you can use it how you want and deploy it properly. So
yeah, man, that's such. I really like that takeaway of spend as much as you can.
Yeah,
like that's going to be different for everyone. Yeah. But like you said, the bad news is that it's going to cost more than you want it to cost. The good news is that if done well, it'll return to you more than you think it might and it could. I'll also feel like too, and feel free to disagree with this, and we'll end on this thought.
Sure.
Thank you for going this long and having this conversation. No, I've really enjoyed it. I also feel like for people, you mentioned the Kanye, commercial, right? And how it's just, it's raw, it's from his phone, but there's a context that exists. And I could be wrong about this, but I feel like we are entering into a space where, because you'll hear people talk about, people don't want, like the polished and the, they want raw, they want real, they want, grab from like, we see how that performs better. But anytime I notice those examples, either it's just kind of like this one-off, like viral video that someone made, or part of like the person who's doing the unpolished raw thing, it's still it's still polished in its own way. Like, while, yes, it's raw and unpolished, listen, that audio sounds very good. You're not hearing reverb. You hear their voice real clear. Sounds like it's been EQ'd a little bit. They're just shooting it from their phone, but they're lit pretty well. And there's a good angle that's there. So even people that are doing this raw thing, one, I think they are building a brand that supports that. And then two, they're still being intentional with how they're crafting the raw experience. Because what I'm noticing for some businesses, I almost feel like they're doing more harm than good when they just grab the camera to create the raw moment. Because they think they like watch, they look at TikTok or they hear some social media guru who says that. But when they do it, there's tons of reverb. The room doesn't have good acoustics. The lighting is terrible. And it's not like, this is raw, but this is a horrible video experience. I don't want to watch this. And so then what ends up happening is like they invest. It's like they end up investing not enough to actually move the needle meaningfully. So like now they're burning money. So it's almost like either don't do it, don't get on video at all because like you don't have the personality, the energy. But if you are going to do it, it can almost hurt you more than help you if you half it, too much. So anyway, just kind of any closing thoughts from you about that? Do you think I'm onto something? Would you?
Yes, you are. But what people don't realize, and we'll use the Kanye example. Yeah, he didn't spend a lot of money on that commercial, but he spent hundreds of millions of dollars to create his brand.
Exactly.
So like, but like average Joe Plumber isn't going to grab their phone and sit in their truck. It's not going to work for you because there's no brand awareness. So like everyone knows what Yeezys are. Everyone knows who Kanye is because his brand awareness is so much money was spent so that commercial could work in that moment. So it's a good case study, an analysis, but unfortunately it's a difficult one because it's confusing because every business owner after that talks to us after that Super Bowl video. We're like, why can't we just do that? Why do we have to spend so much money on video? Why can't we just do that? Because I'm like, well, because you're not Kanye. Like, why do I have to explain this to you? Like, how can you not understand that you're not Kanye? And so it's just, thanks for that, Kanye. You really helped us all in the video production space.
I was curious what are your thoughts? Yeah, because I've always, again, like, and even too, when people say things like people aren't looking for polished, I'm like, people don't have a problem with, what people don't want is for something to feel very like fake and,
it's authentic.
Exactly. Like,
that's what was appealing to it as well.
Correct. Because like something I'm like, dude, no one is ignoring an ad because it was shot with a good camera and it has like good like no one's like, if only this ad used a webcam on a MacBook Pro from 2014, I would have liked it. But since that's a new Sony A7 for whatever, this commercial's trash. I think people are extracting the wrong application from these case studies. They're pulling they're divorcing it from the context it's existing in.
Well,
and I'm like, again, find the most raw whatever. I promise you that raw video, there's been a lot of brand built behind that. It's authentic with the person. There's still a lot of intentionality. They've got their angles figured out. They are EQing the audio and balancing it. They have a light set up. Like, it's not as raw as you think it is because it requires polish to make it look and feel that raw.
And maybe I'll end on this thought. Not that it's necessarily the best ending thought, but I'm a huge proponent of production value. Audio, lighting, huge. Creative is king. Like, it has to be the idea around what you're trying to do. Like, creative is so important. Like, the message and how it's like, it's everything, because I've shot with really good cameras and amazing lighting and phenomenal crew, and the idea is so dumb. It's just not gonna move the needle. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is not going on my reel. You know what I'm saying? Well, let's go get paid and move on. But like, this is not a good concept or creative. So and I think a lot of times you get creative by you partner with somebody who like understands the value in creative and like can have a holistic picture of your brand and how it should be portrayed, you know? So
correct. Yeah. Cause it's because you can get someone who has a really, you know, has a great camera. They can shoot something that looks beautiful, but they don't understand how it's fitting into that larger marketing brand strategy.
And I'll say this,
and how
sorry to interrupt, but when I say spend as much money as you can on video, I mean also the creative. Like that's packaged in with like the camera, the lighting, like the writing, like the concept.
Exactly.
That is spending as much as you can on creative. Like do it. Like it'll be worth it.
Dude, Josh, man, I so enjoyed it, dude. Seriously, man. I really like this conversation. And like I've said so far to everyone I've recorded with, and I really do sincerely mean it, because I've enjoyed, but my mind goes into all of the other things I know we could have talked about. Would love to have you back on
for sure
to just chop it up more. And I know we're going to stay in touch in general. You know, we've reconnected. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you as you scale and grow Wolf Bear. But before we wrap things up officially, Josh, if people want to connect with you, they heard you talking about those AI warming up, you know, those leads, they hear about what you're doing, you know, even with Skilled or with Wolf Bear, how can people connect with you, connect with what you're doing? Where can people go?
Yeah, on my website, thewolfbear.com. It's going to be changing, but that URL will stay the same. You can, or go to, right now, my Instagram is wolf.bear.media. So, but those two ways you can get me, or LinkedIn.
Awesome.
I search my name. So.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're going to put all of Josh's links and information in the description, in the show notes. And seriously, man, I appreciate the conversation. And more than anything, I appreciate all of you that have taken the time to listen. Be sure to leave a review, like, subscribe, wherever you're watching this. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you guys in the next one.